No, but I just wanted to address that because the Frederick Douglass Foundation of New York is a chapter of a national organization that's been working diligently in making sure that Frederick Douglass's message get across. Len made a great point. This is New York State. We have 16 statues of Frederick Douglass throughout Rochester, New York. Do you know how many of them actually address the core values of Frederick Douglass? Zero of them. None of them. The Frederick Douglass Airport was renamed Frederick Douglass in the middle of the night because in order to address him, they have to address him. Now, to address the issue of Frederick Douglass being a Republican, a gun owner, one of the wealthiest escaped slaves around, worked for many different. He was also an ambassador, also one of the first marshals in his country. You're right, we can't teach that because what Frederick Douglass embodies is that transition that the Democrat Party did when they created, in his own hometown in Maryland.
When the Democratic Party said they're going to rename the airport, I'm in the Irondequoit Republican Committee, and I said to him, you better damn well be at the airport because he's a Republican. Why are you letting Democrats represent Frederick Douglass at the airport? And they stuck it in the middle of the night.
You know why they did it in the middle of the night?
Republicans.
Because organizations like the Frederick Douglass Foundation of New York and our national partners, and at that time, also President Trump, which has worked at our organization, has done a lot of work on his campaign, in the administration while he was in, they had to do it in the middle of the night because they knew that people like myself were going to be there and we were going to be able to highlight certain
Republicans
things.
needed to take credit for that.
But the county's not going to let us, which is why this year's election, you hear it every year, it's the most important election, right? But the thing is, right now, from a judgeship, which whatever decision you make this year is going to sit for the next 10 years. If this president or if this Congress remains the way it is, the long-term effects are going to be huge. Organizations like ours are hot. We're working diligently and almost day and night to be able to use the messaging from our forefathers, because even though Frederick Douglass didn't help with the Constitution per se, but he laid a groundwork for what America truly is, which is inclusive, right? Of course, politicians came up with policies that says judges can't tell you what they think. Okay, no problem. They came up with rules that, would prevent some of your elected officials, or they'll come up with ways to make them look like fools or racist, right? I grew up in the city just like Laron. I grew up in the city just like the former not so lovely Mayor Warren, right? I grew up, and I have to ask them, why is it that we have such a society that's so broken, right, when we have people who truly believe in healing the family? Have you ever wondered, Frederick Douglass was a family man. Was he perfect? No, he had an affair. He did all sorts of crazy things like human beings. But what he did do, consistently in everything that he did, was God, country, family. And he knew that if you didn't believe in those three key factors, America's in a lot of trouble. But you know what? Let's forget about Frederick Douglass. Let's look at some more radical people. I don't know, Malcolm X maybe. He was pretty radical, right? If he was sitting in this room, he'd say, you guys are all crazy. But he was the first guy in his time to say, yeah, y'all conservative people are crazy and just as racist as everybody else. But the Democrats are 10 times worse. And they lie to you about it. Now, listen, that's Malcolm X. By the way, that's all on our website. Let's talk about why is it that people like Frederick Douglass became so popular of his time. People say, well, during Frederick Douglass, things like abortion wasn't an issue. Bullcrap. Right? Bullcrap. Because it was during his time that Margaret Sanger was doing the things that she did, who was a good friend of the one guy that almost eliminated all Jews from this country. Right? Using eugenics.
Correct.
So the point of the matter that I'm trying to make, and I apologize, I know this is about all the candidates that are out there, but we started talking about Frederick Douglass. Absolutely, he needs to be at the forefront. Right? He's not somebody that we hail. We have God for that. But he is definitely an instrument with a message that is so clear that when we go out there, when brothers like the city Republican leader who's back there, by the way, a quick round of applause for him because he's got a lot of work to do. You're still the leader, right? Absolutely. We can empower. Absolutely. Stories like that those of us, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin. What it takes is that type of strength that you have internally. right? The basis of our moral characters to stand with people like him and build that committee up. Now, most of you know, or who know me, I'm not a big party favor. Never have been, never intend to be. With that being said, I'm a people favor. I believe in the message of Frederick Douglass, not because he said it, not because he's black, not because he was one of the few people that became millionaires in his time in comparison, but because what he preached saved America during that time. And that is why, like you said, that message should be yelled at the top, and people like Orlando in the city committee, which is where we really need to get that message to, as well as these candidates here out there, to know being a Republican has nothing to do with skin color. It has everything to do, let me rephrase that, and I apologize. Being an American, being a Christian, which is the foundation of this country, okay, has everything to do with what we believe is right and the strength that we have to fight against everything that's wrong. A big applaud to those truckers that are right now pretty much being massacred in some cases, ripped up. But that's Canada. Canada's always had a hint of communism or socialism to it. That isn't America in any way, and I know for 100%, based on all the studies that we've done on Frederick Douglass, if he was here, he'd stand right next to each one of these individuals, and he would take all the leaders that are in place right now, not making sure that this message is loud, and he would rebuke them. And he has, in all of his speeches. But FDFNY.org, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for what you do. I know